In my first 6 months of tech sales, I have generated $1.5 million in pipeline, as well as sourced multiple deals that closed $400K in revenue for the company. So in this video, I frankly feel like I need to make this video because there is a lot of BS advice out there on how to use AI within sales. So there are videos like how to build a sales team with AI agents, or how ChatGPT helped me attain 116% quota, or this Claude skill landed me 100 meetings booked this month. So AI doesn't make someone go from bad to good at their job. It only exaggerates the results. So if you're already good at prospecting and finding meetings, then AI will just have you book even more. If you are bad at your job at prospecting meetings, AI will just slow you down. If the system that you are finding prospects and companies, if that system needs AI, then you have failed to make a system that actually works, because a real system is compoundable and it's repeatable. So with AI, it doesn't matter if you're using it for the first time or the 20th time, it's going to stay the same length of time. It is also not repeatable. Where AI actually shines is that it is really good at executing instructions, but it is really bad at forming new ideas. So think of it as like an eloquent kindergartner, where it can say things very prettily and execute instructions, but if asked to create an idea for X, then it fails to do that. And that's the reason why our current AI models are suffering and why they are looking to make AGI, which is artificial general intelligence. How do you actually optimize AI if it's not just using more AI? Well, you need to actually figure out your system. So you need to think of prospecting as building a system out. Systems thinking is your ability to see hidden patterns from the parts that you can't observe. Take this iceberg. At the top of the iceberg are the meetings you booked and the pipeline generated. But at the bottom of that iceberg are all the implicit ways that those meetings and pipeline were formed, hardened, and visible in the real world. So it's all of your system in there. So there are 3 types of systems you're going to come across. You're gonna come across clear systems, complicated systems, chaos. So you need to know which one you are using. For a clear system, this is when a clear input creates a clear output. If you send a prospect a calendar link, then they have the ability to book a meeting. That is a clear system. Therefore, when the situation occurs where the prospect is like, send me your calendar link, make sure you send them the calendar link. Very simple. For a complicated system, it's hard to understand the cause and effect. So this is like booking a meeting, because you understand the causes, starting a conversation with this opener, or ending a message with this CTA, or putting this or that on your LinkedIn. And you know that the effects can be you book a meeting, have a prospect be interested, have a prospect be disinterested. However, you're not sure which cause goes to which effect. That is what we're talking about here today. What you need to do in this situation when you're involved in this type of system is have expertise look at it. And with expertise, it's kind of just a muscle that they have to guess what is happening. That's all prospecting really is. We're a chaotic system. You don't know why things are working the way they are. You don't know what the causes are, what the effects are. Everything's just blurry. Let's say you're on a PIP, or performance improvement plan, and you have to close a deal or a meeting in a short amount of time. This is when it's impossible to do analysis paralysis, because you don't have time to do that. Basically, you need to stabilize and take action, and take it one step at a time to figure out what will certainly work and what will certainly not work. So how you should operate in a system is knowing these 3 things: the parts, the connections, and the patterns. So for parts, what websites do you go to find news? What pages do you go to understand a buyer's intent or a company's interest? For connections, what can you derive if someone is on X news or Y materials? What can you derive if someone is doing talks on Z? For patterns, based on X news, what other news would it be helpful to know if someone's on? What are other X and Y topics should you follow? So you're responsible for weaving these 3 parts. I think of prospecting and booking meetings as overall a complicated system. However, I don't think it becomes chaotic unless you're on a PIP. Every top performer's way of booking a meeting is able to be given in a step-by-step instruction, along with being able to be supercharged by AI. So if you meet a top performer and you're like, well, how'd you book that meeting? And they go, I don't know. They could either be lying to you, or they're not aware that they have a system in place. Here's another concept, DART: deconstruct, analyze, recognize patterns, and test. And I will show you how to do this with AI. So for deconstruct, I did this by taking a successful quarter that I had and writing down every single successful meeting that I booked that has generated pipeline. And so with this, I put down the process of how I got there, the message, the objection handling I did, and the company and the prospect. Then took this digest and put it in a prompt enhancer and basically told the enhancer, hey, you're gonna be a BDR and these are your accomplishments for booking meetings. I want you to execute strategies in how to finding more right prospects and right signals given this. This is going to be fed into AI as a Claude project instructions, essentially. So that's the deconstruct. That's also known as the parts side of the system. You've now loaded the tool of AI with all the necessary tools needed. Analyze. Now, it's very important your creativity doesn't end at just the successful meetings that you booked last quarter. You need to ask yourself essential questions like, what are the best news sources to maximize my time on? What are the most common personas of my most successful prospects? What are the most common industries that my company are in? That is the connections part of the system. Recognize. Now that I have the analysis, I need to recognize patterns or opportunities that I can branch out into from the existing data that I have. In order to be creative about this, you should never be satisfied about doing a process for too long, and you should constantly be exploring other avenues of information. Test. You should always be A/B testing, but test with a caveat of never do the same mistake twice. Once you test something and you know it doesn't work out, only revisit if you have a good reason to. My team is fiercely competitive, and that's why it feels like every day I'm part BDR, part VC investor, part DevRel. So what are the best types of AI prompts you should be putting? Truly just instructions for the agent, clarification on companies and processes, like tell me everything that person A has done, or tell me everything that this company has done related to B. What are bad prompts to be putting? Search for X engineers, search for Y companies, find companies and people similar to X. But how should you enhance these prompts if these are the prompts you're putting in? Instead of search for engineer, you should be saying, I want to find engineers with this interest. Look for talks, personal blogs, activities on these socials or public sites for this information related to this interest. Ideally, they should be currently employed at a public company. The reason is because these engineers tend to be the best to start a conversation with because they're usually open. That's a more refined prompt than just search for X engineers. Instead of putting in the prompt, find me companies similar to X, you should be saying this company is getting traction or attention because of reasons X, Y, and Z. Use the approach that I use to find this company and find companies that have the same mission statement, VCs, or engineering prowess to the company. From there, you can supercharge your processes with AI, not letting AI do the thinking, but letting it actually do the grunt work. Then you can half close your laptop and make a cup of coffee.